Let's get a status report on where the Democrats are today. Are they picking up any steam ahead of the midterm elections? And are they moving to the left to succeed or the center? CNN's Miguel Marquez reports from New Orleans, where some 2020 Democratic hopefuls are gathering.
The yearly gathering of progressives, Netroots Nation, attracting the president's biggest detractors.
He is reckless, dangerous, and lawless. I think that he is a threat to the United States, to our people and our democracy.
One star of the show.
Why is he still president?
California billionaire Tom Steyer, who has spent millions running ads nationwide urging the impeachment of Donald J. Trump.
Why hasn't Congress started impeachment proceedings?
All the immigration talk now worries mainstream establishment Democrats.
Running a hypothetical campaign right now about having an impeachment vote when we could be spending that time and energy revealing to the American people how corrupt this administration is, I don't think that that's a productive way to go right now.
The fear, talking impeachment before the special counsel's investigation is complete, could turn off independents and moderates ahead of the midterms and beyond.
Is there any concern that that fissure between the far left and the center is going to hurt candidates in November and possibly the presidential contenders in 2020?
I don't think we should be quite so clever about pollsters. And I think that the people, the political establishment in Washington, D.C. should get back to much simpler questions, which is, are we telling the truth about the most important things in America? Are we standing up for the American people?
Potential 2020 contenders making their way to Netroots, Senators Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, and Kamala Harris.
Voting and supporting for Abdul El-Sayed for governor is the right thing to do.
And self-professed Democratic socialist candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who upset an establishment Democrat in her primary and is now stumping for progressives nationwide.
We don't believe that the way forward and the way to win for progressives and for Democrats is to go moderate. We want to see candidates who are bold, who are visionary, and who speak to the people.
Republicans painting Netroots as now mainstream. In Talking Point Center reporters, the Republican National Committee called Netroots a formerly fringe far-left progressive movement that has become a key force in moving the Democratic Party further left.
Do you think the Democratic Party has moved to the left, or is this just a more open tent these days?
I do think that it's moving more and more left. I don't think that progressivism or liberalism is a far-out idea anymore.
Yes. So how will Democrats decide on their party's direction? We're both fascinated by the state of the Democratic Party, whether it's views on impeachment, whether how far progressive to go in the party, all of those strains. And it strikes me that in opposition to a president, I think back to Obama, and it took 8 years of opposition to Bush for Democrats ultimately to get it right, because it didn't work in 2004. It took until Barack Obama to kind of for that opposition to really gel. What are you seeing in the Democratic Party, and does it look like it's coherent enough to take on Trump, as they would like to do?
Yeah, first of all, George W. Bush didn't win by all that much in 2004. That was a very close election. As you know, Ohio decided that election. But leaving that aside, there is a lot of energy, and you've seen it from the day after the inauguration and the big protests that has translated into higher voter turnouts, larger numbers of candidates, grassroots contributions and so on. And then in the elections themselves, Democrats have been pretty successful in flipping seats. So there are all kinds of objective indications. There's a special election next week in Ohio, in a district that Trump won by 11 points. That's a +7 Republican district in which it is a neck-and-neck race. These are indications of something going on out there. So I do think that there is a tailwind behind Democrats. That doesn't guarantee anything, and it will be the presidential candidate who defines the image and the direction of the party in 2020. That's never decided in off-year elections. Because we're a big, vast, diverse country. Conor Lamb won a great race in Pennsylvania running with a different tone and tenor than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who represents her district, or Ocasio-Cortez, who represents her district very, very well. And so, it's the presidential candidate who will define what the party looks like going into that election.
But stick with the midterms for a second. And that dynamic that you just laid out between Conor Lamb and Ocasio-Cortez is exactly the one that we want to talk about, because there seems to be this struggle. Is the Democratic Party moving farther to the left? Will it be a far-left liberal party, or will it be a, blue dog centrist party? Isn't there room enough? I mean, are these mutually exclusive?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Okay. Do Democrats have to decide, I guess, is my question.
Well, look, I think that she would not have won in Alabama, where Doug Jones won, or in Pennsylvania, where Conor Lamb won. So I think that you have the greatest success when your candidates reflect your district. I think there is a broad consensus among Democrats on certain issues. Certainly, Trump is one, but that we have to do something about health care. That there is a concern about income inequality and job insecurity. These kinds of issues are fundamental to what Democrats believe in. At the bottom line, they believe government has to play a role that we can't withdraw. And that's something that unites Democrats. There are big differences over tactics, but I think this is an overblown thing. I don't want to be Pollyannish, but you saw what happened in Virginia last year. Very, very vigorous race between a candidate who ran from the left, Tom Perriello, and Ralph Northam, who was more of a center-left Democrat. Northam won the primary, and Democrats united, and he won a larger than expected victory. And I think a lot of it has to do with Trump. I think there is a sense of urgency among Democrats to win these races, because there's great concern about the direction in which this president is leading.
Well, let's talk about that, Axe, because you're very concerned about what the administration is doing to roll back particular policies of the Obama administration on the environment. I think about fuel standards and their announcement that's come out in the last couple of days, combating climate change, EPA regulations. So this is one of the reasons why conservatives ultimately fell in line for Trump, is that there is a different view about what government should do, how it should balance economic interests with environmental concerns, how it should intervene in the economy, whether there should be universal health care. You are seeing this play out right now with a president who is also relying, as Obama did, on executive rules, executive power to change the direction. But you don't like the direction it's going in now.
Well, look, let me make clear, and I've said this before here and elsewhere, I don't care about the Obama legacy. History will take care of that. It's the practical implications of these policies. You guys read news, and so you're covering stories at the same time, the administration rolling back these measures that are meant to try and combat climate change, and these runaway wildfires in the West and these floods in the East. There are real implications to these policies. I mean, you look at these wildfires. I mean, Trump is literally Nero while the West burns. And that's what concerns me, the real life implications of this. And what's interesting on health care, you mentioned health care, is the Affordable Care Act has never been more popular. There is a real urgency about health care in this country. It's rising to the top of the list again of issues of concern among people. And you don't hear Republicans talking anymore about the Affordable Care Act as much. You don't hear them talking about repeal and replace as much, because we see the uninsured rising again. We've seen premiums jacked up largely because of the administration's actions. And so, I'm not worried about legacies. I'm worried about the impact of policies. And ultimately, people, you're right, David, there's this philosophical difference. Ultimately, when people vote, they're going to have to judge, are the policies of this administration helping them? Helping them? Are their wages going up? Are their lives better? If the answer is no, even if the GDP is up and Wall Street's doing well, then they're going to have a political problem.
Right.